Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. Have you ever seen a beggar in the street and thought to yourself, I wish I could help you, but I myself need that money? We are all human, and we know that if we have nothing, we would be thankful for any kind of help, or even just an opportunity. But most people walk past beggars without even looking at them. In this story, a poor man who had nothing left gave his last few dollars to a young mother, and she gave him something worth much more than money in return. Once upon a time, there was a homeless man who went around the city asking for food and money. He wasn't lazy. In fact, he had worked all his life and raised 2 sons on his own. But after a serious illness, he was no longer able to work and ended up on the street with nothing. So when people walked by and saw his outstretched hand, they often dropped a few coins into it, and sometimes someone would take pity on him and buy him food. One evening, the man was walking along the waterfront when he saw a group of young people passing by. They were laughing loudly and having fun. The homeless man asked them for some money so that he could buy himself something to eat. But these guys weren't like the others. They didn't even look at him, let alone give him anything. One of them even kicked him on purpose, but the man just brushed it off. He was used to such treatment. The homeless man continued his way and soon came across a small cafe. Sitting outside the cafe on a bench was a young woman with a baby. She was well dressed, unlike the people who usually frequented this place. The woman looked tired and upset. The man hesitated for a moment, then, still hoping to get some money, went up to her and said, "Excuse me, ma'am, could you spare some change? I haven't eaten for a couple of days." The woman took a close look at him, then reached into her purse, pulled out a few bills and handed them to him. "Here you go," she said. "Go buy yourself some food." The man thanked her profusely and hurried to the store. It turned out that the money was enough for him not only to buy food, but also a bottle of strong alcohol, which he hadn't tasted for a long time. Having bought everything he needed, he returned to the bench where the woman and the child were still sitting. As he approached, he heard the woman say to herself, "I don't know what to do. I'm so hungry, but I can't eat now. If only someone could help me." Hearing this, the man realized that she wasn't just tired, she was genuinely hungry. Without hesitation, he took the food he had bought for himself and handed it to her. "Here, please take it," he said. "I think you need it more than I do." The woman was taken aback and asked, "Are you sure?" The man nodded, smiling, and said, "You seem to be in much greater need than I am. Besides, I've already drunk my fill, and it would be a sin to waste it on myself." The woman's eyes filled with tears, and she said, "Thank you. You don't know how much you've helped me. It's been a tough day, and I really don't want to go home like this. I'm so ashamed." The man said kindly, "Don't cry. We all have our problems. Just pull yourself together. After all, you have a child to take care of." The woman nodded, wiped away her tears, and began eating. As she ate, she told the man that her husband had left her, and she was alone with their 4-month-old baby girl. She couldn't find a babysitter, so she had to take the baby with her everywhere. That's why she had spent the whole day walking around the city center, hoping to ask a passerby to take a picture of her for her modeling portfolio. But unfortunately, no one had agreed until she met the homeless man. At that point, the baby started crying, and the woman, who was still hungry herself, had no one to turn to for help. When the homeless man heard this, he felt sorry for the young mother. He, too, knew what it was like to be in a difficult situation and to have no one to turn to. So when he saw the woman crying, his heart ached. After they finished eating, the homeless man suggested that they take a walk together. The woman readily agreed, and they started walking along the waterfront. Suddenly, the homeless man stopped, turned to the woman and said, "Here's the rest of the money I got from that kind lady. I don't need it anymore. I think you might be able to use it." The woman was surprised and asked, "Are you sure? But what will you live on?" The man smiled and replied, "I'll manage somehow. But you need this more than I do. Take it, please." The woman hesitated, but seeing the man's insistence, she took the money and said, "Thank you. You're a kind man. I hope fate will be kind to you, too." The homeless man watched the woman leave and suddenly felt lighter, as if a huge burden had been lifted from his shoulders. It wasn't just about the money. It was about doing a good deed and helping someone in need. And that, he thought, was priceless. A little later, the man sat down on a nearby bench to rest. He was tired and hungry, but he didn't feel as bad as he had before. Then he noticed a young boy approaching him. The boy was holding a newspaper in his hands. "Mister," he said, stopping in front of the man, "can I give you a newspaper?" The man looked at the boy and asked, How much does it cost? The boy replied, $3. The man rummaged through his pockets and found 3 coins. He handed them to the boy and asked, "What's your name?" "Tom," the boy replied. "And how old are you?" 12, Tom said. The man smiled and asked, "So tell me, Tom, what do you want to be when you grow up?" "A businessman," the boy replied confidently. The man nodded and said, "That's a great goal. You know, Tom, I used to be a businessman myself. I owned my own business and made pretty good money, but then I fell ill and lost everything." The boy listened intently and then asked, "Did you like being a businessman?" "Of course, it was exciting and interesting, but it's not about the money, it's about the challenge. You have to work hard and smart to succeed in business. It's like a game where you have to beat the competition and come out on top. It's not easy, but it's definitely worth it," the man said with a smile. "Can I also work for you someday?" Tom asked. "Of course, maybe not in my field though. You're still young and have a lot to learn. You need to gain experience and knowledge first. You're probably smarter than I was at your age. You know, they say that kids these days are smarter than adults, so you'll figure it out. Most importantly, believe in yourself and don't give up." The next morning, the homeless man woke up early and went to the same bench where he had met Tom the day before, but the boy wasn't there. Disappointed, the man sat down to wait, pulling his jacket tighter against the morning chill. Soon enough, a familiar figure appeared in the distance. It was Tom, and he was running towards the man. "Mister," he panted, "are you awake? Are you here?" "Yes, I'm here, Tom. Why did you come?" The boy pulled a crumpled piece of paper out of his pocket and handed it to the man. "Take a look at this," he said. The man unfolded the paper and saw a drawing of a coffee cup with a heart inside. "That's amazing. Tom, you're very talented. Where did you learn to draw like that?" "From you," Tom replied modestly. "You said that you used to be a businessman and made good money, right? Well, I thought maybe you wanted to sell these drawings to passers-by. You know, earn some extra money. That way you won't have to sit on this bench anymore." The man looked at the boy and couldn't help but smile. "You're a smart kid, Tom. I see you're already a businessman, but you forget one important detail. Not every idea is destined to succeed. You have to think carefully about whether people even want to buy such pictures, but you can always try, Mr. And then maybe you'll make enough money to buy yourself new clothes and shoes." The man stroked Tom on the shoulder and said, "Thank you, son. You're right. Let's give it a try." And so, the homeless man and the boy stood on a busy street corner, offering their drawings to passers-by. At first, no one paid any attention to them, but then someone took a picture of the homeless man with his drawing. And after that, people started taking notice and buying the pictures. By the end of the day, they had sold all their drawings and earned enough money for the man to buy new clothes and shoes. But most importantly, he had found a new purpose in life. Thanks to the woman who had given him money and the boy who had believed in him, he was no longer just a homeless man. He had a friend and an apprentice. Together, they could do more than he could have ever imagined.